Hello Year 8 and welcome back to the murder mystery. Well, a lot has happened since last week, not least the fact that you guys have helped me to do some of the experiments that are leading us down the path, working out who the suspects are and who might have done it. So what have we been doing in the last week while you've been doing those forensic science experiments? Well, you might remember the victim. We didn't know who she was last week, but we've managed to identify her from photos and CCTV of the surrounding area, and her full name is Chris, or Christina Killane. She's a local woman, and her profession, well, we went to her house, we had a look, and we found all sorts of interesting evidence suggesting that she is a professional blackmailer. She makes her money by finding out people's secrets and then forcing them to give her money to keep them quiet. So, on her computer, we cracked her hard drive and we found out that all of these people who we saw coming out of the shop last week, they were being blackmailed by Chris, and for a variety of reasons. So, Robin and Diablo, she had evidence that they'd been shoplifting again. Diablo, as you'll remember, had already been done for shoplifting, so this might have been juvie for Diablo, and Robin, you know, tarnishing his reputation. So, did they do it? We found evidence of infidelity. Soccer mom, real name Liz, was having an affair with her next door neighbour. She was being blackmailed. Perhaps she killed Chris to keep that secret. The ballerina, real name Brittany, she was embezzling money. She was taking money from the dance studio where she worked and using it for her private holidays and her private purchases. Chris knew this, was obviously blackmailing Brittany. Perhaps Brittany didn't want to pay all that money that she had stolen. The rower, real name Kate. There were some dodgy photos from when she was younger, and Christina, or Chrissy, had access to those. So, was the worry of those photos enough for Kate to kill the blackmailer? Chris had evidence that Paris had been drink driving. She'd got into a car after a few glasses of wine, had driven home. She'd run over a couple of animals, including a couple of local dogs. Hadn't stopped. So, was that enough for Paris to do the deed? Princess T, real name Trinity, local drug dealer. So, Chris had evidence of that. Was that enough for Trinity, Princess T, to bash her over the head? The train spotter, real name Reg, he worked in stocks and shares, and he'd been doing what's called insider trading, making money illegally by knowing what companies were going to do in advance of that information being released to the public. The one person we haven't been able to track down is Flip Flops. We don't know much about her. We haven't worked out who she is yet. Maybe that's significant, maybe it's not. So, looking at your results, and these are the results when I recorded the video. Obviously, there might be more results since then. In blue, you can see the things that floated. In red, the things that sank. Well, all of them had blueberries. All of them had a fruit tray. And that sank. So if you remember, in the bowl of water that we had, there was some plastic that floated and some that sank to the bottom of the bowl, and so that could very easily have been the fruit tray. So we definitely need some plastic that's floating on the top of the water. So from the results, it looks like the milk bottle floats, the yogurt pot floats, and the butter tub floats, but the fizzy drink bottle, most people said that sank. The soap bottle, most people said that sank, and the hand gel, most people said that sank. So we're looking for people who bought milk, yogurt, or the butter tub. So basically that seems to exclude Diablo, seems to exclude soccer mom and the ballerina. So they only had things that sank. The second test was the powder. Did it dissolve or not? Well, most people said that the salt almost completely dissolved, the sugar completely dissolved, so it certainly wasn't those. Baking soda, cloudy liquid or sank to the bottom, yes, it could have been that. Baking powder, yes, it could have been that. And flour, yes, it could have been that as well. So we're looking for someone who had baking soda, baking powder or flour. So when we add those in, we can see that now we're starting to zoom in on the rower, Kate, Robin and Princess T, Trinity, because they had both of those. They had plastic that floated and they had a powder that wouldn't dissolve. Finally, we were looking for something that turned blueberries dark blue or purple. Well, almost everybody found out that the vinegar went deep red, so it definitely wasn't that. Fizzy drinks, most people seemed to imply it went a light red or pink colour, which is what I saw, so it wasn't that. The tap water again, a sort of light red pinky colour. And the vegetable oil, well, the blueberries seemed to go green, so it wasn't that. So what's going on there? How can it be that none of these liquids are turning the blueberries blue or purple? Well, for those of you who tried everything in the shopping bag, sugar you can see there, it's a sort of pink colour. Vinegar, that's the red colour. Milk, it sort of went a green colour. Fruit juices, tonic water, pink and pink again. The oil, there's the green that I was talking about. The lemonade, pink. But if you tried baking soda in water, you would have seen it go blue. So for any of you who tried that, well done, because the baking soda, the powder, would have turned the blueberries blue. And the way you'd remember that is if you know that baking soda is a carbonate, then you might remember that that cancels acids, and you might have been thinking from your acids and alkalis topic about indicators, and the red cabbage goes red in acids, goes blue in alkalis, and maybe some of you were trying to think of anything in those shopping bags that might have been an alkali, and if you were, then very well done. So here we go, here's tap water, and if you dissolve the blueberries in tap water, then you can see that you get this pink colour. But if you put in a bit of baking powder or baking soda, then you get a blue colour or even a purple, a dark blue purple colour with the baking soda and baking powder. And again, just think back to your indicators from the acids and alkalis topics. So that blue very much ties in with the idea of baking soda. In fact, my kids had this crazy idea of what would happen if you took the blueberries in vinegar and you mixed them with the blueberry juice that had been in baking soda. So this was baking soda, making it blue, and this was the vinegar, making it red. And if you mix the two things together, firstly, you will notice that it fizzes, because the baking soda produces carbon dioxide because it's a carbonate, but also look at the colour, it is purple. So that's my kids producing evidence that actually if you've got a lot of baking soda, that will neutralise the vinegar and you will end up with a purple, dark blue purple liquid. So based on those, we can say that the combination of blueberries, vinegar and baking soda would result in a blue or purple liquid, as would blueberries, water and baking soda. And so therefore initially the people we're interested in are the rower, Kate and Robin, because they had all of the ingredients in their shopping baskets to meet the tests. As for you guys, what did you think? Well, you thought Paris, probably not. You thought Diablo, probably not. You guys homed in on the rower, well done. You thought flip-flops, definitely not. You guys homed in on Robin as well, well done. Soccer Mum, you thought probably not. Princess T was an option for you guys that I hadn't looked at. So if we have a look at that, yeah, flour and milk, so that's matching 2 out of the 3 tests there. So I can see why that was chosen. And again, you thought ballerina, probably not, and you weren't sure about the train spotter. So you guys from your tests were homing in on the rower and Robin as well. So well done you. Now, a detailed search of the crime scene, and in particular the bins and the recycling side of the car park. There was a blood spattered note written on a bit of kitchen towel, probably by the victim. And this really seems to support the idea that it was Robin who hit Chrissy, the victim, around the head. But is everything quite as it appears? Okay. Beep. The time is 9:47. Interview with Mr. Robin Davies. Those present, Detective Sherlock and Detective Watson. Would you mind removing your glasses and hat, Robin?
Yes.
Right. I'm afraid it's not looking good for you. Were you at the supermarket yesterday at 10:15 a.m?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as you may or may not know, there was a fatality there. And this was found near the recycling centre in the car park. It appears to be a note from the victim naming you as the attacker. It's got her blood on it. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, I don't want that.
No, but the victim wrote that and says it's you. Okay, any comment? You're not the victim. All right. Second piece of evidence. We have here till receipts saying that yesterday at 12:15 and 37 seconds, you bought blueberries, water, baking soda and butter. Did you buy the blueberries?
Yes.
Did you buy the butter?
Yes.
Was that you? Did you buy the baking soda?
No.
No. What did you buy?
The salt.
You bought salt. Can you prove that?
Yes. I can't.
What is that? Is that a receipt?
Yes.
All right. Interview paused while we look for this new evidence. Thank you, Mr. Davies. Right, so welcome back to the crime lab. Now it looks like we've got some evidence down here which is a bit damning. I know I should be wearing gloves, but you know, coronavirus and all. We seem to have some note from the victim here saying that it was Robin what done it. And you can see here we got blood splatter all over this note. But there's something that's slightly bothering me about the way that this is written. So I'm going to do a little bit of chromatography here just to test the writing here. So all you need is some sort of baking tray, anything like that. Some water here. So pouring that in, doesn't need to be too deep whatsoever. And I've, you know, coronavirus, all that, can't get the usual equipment. So I've just got something to hold the paper towel while I pin it up. So this is the note written on paper towel, found in the car park of the shop. And I'm just going to dip the end in there and then clip that on something like a something like a, oh God, what do you call it? A washing up liquid bottle. Any bottle will do, just something to hold it up. Oh, we can already see here something a bit suspicious. You can see that the pen on the right is starting to run, while the pen on the left isn't, and this might be suggesting that the note naming the victim was actually completed, was finished by someone other than the victim themselves. And we'll come back in a few more minutes and see how that's run. Right, so it's only about 5 minutes later. If you come and zoom in here on this result, as I suspected, the note's been tampered with. You can see it was, now that could be a P, could be an R, could be the start of a B, we don't know. But clearly someone came and tampered with the note that the victim was trying to write. Now, our supposition was that the blood would have got on whatever pen had been written to write this. And so the suspect is likely to have got rid of the pen. So we went delving around the bins in the local area. We found a load of pens here that might be the one that was used to modify that. And what I need you to do is work out the type of pen that would have done it. So what you're going to need to do, grab a load of black pens, as I said, Sharpies, Biros, Crayolas, OHP pens, permanent markers. You're going to want some kitchen towel, a couple of sheets, something like that. And then good distance off the bottom, you don't want to be too close to the bottom, maybe 5 centimetres up. You want to put yourself some spots. Now remember the order of the pens, put your pens back in the order that you did the spots. There's no point finding the right pen if you don't know which one it was. So not too close together, but you can fit quite a range of pens on the width of the kitchen towel. So I'm just doing this quickly here to show you. Don't go through, you don't want to splodge so big you go straight through the kitchen towel. There you go, so that's all the black pens we managed to find in the bins. Again, baking tray, bit of water in the bottom, something like a washing up liquid bottle just to hold it. Carefully drop the lower edge in, fold it over the top and clamp it and see if any of your pens match that there. Right, next job after this, we're going for the fingerprints. Thank you. Okay, so as you saw there, it wasn't actually, it was Robin. So the victim managed to write, or we believe the victim managed to write, it was P. Now, this could have been a P, this could have been the start of an R, or this could have even been the start of a B. So it could be Paris, it could be Robin, it could be Brittany, it could be Reg, could be any of those things. So we're not sure, but what we can say is it wasn't definitely Robin. Now, while we do a little bit of analysis of the blood on this note, I want you guys to do a little bit of analysis of what type of pen might have caused this particular pattern here, a chromatography pattern. So these are my suggestions: a Sharpie or similar, a biro, a whiteboard marker if you've got one in your house, some sort of felt tip pen like Crayola, and if you have something weird like an OHP pen or an acetate pen, you could try one of those as well. Try a variety of black pens. You can use blue pens if you want, they should show virtually the same pattern, and see if any of your black pens give you a nice soluble blue dye and also a less soluble red or pink dye. See which of your pens run and if any of them give you a pattern like that. It may be you don't have the pens that will match this, but you should be able to see which ones will run and which ones won't. So, we found some pens in and around the bins, and we want to work out who was handling those pens and see if we can match it up to any of our suspects or the victim. And in order to do that, we need to know a little bit about fingerprinting. Now, when fingerprints are classified, they're firstly split into three broad types. The most common types are loops, as shown here. And the defining feature of a loop is that the ridge, some of the ridges, curve back on themselves. So you can see all these ridges here curving back on themselves. Yes, some of them go off to the other side of the fingerprint, but some of them curve back, and that is a loop. And this is the most common type of fingerprint, with about 65% of fingerprints being this type. The second type of fingerprint is a wall. That's this. And this is where the ridges go in circles or spirals. And about 25% of fingerprints are this type. Much less common, only around 5 to 10%, are arches. And an arch is a wave-like shape where the ridges go up and then they come back down going to the other side of the fingerprint, but there's nothing here that curls back on itself. There's no ridges that curve back, and they're much less common at arches. Once you know the major type of fingerprint, is it a loop, a wall or an arch, then you need to look at what's called the minutiae. And these are things within the fingerprint that will help you to pin it down a little bit more detailed. So, for example, here we have a dot. Here in this fingerprint up here, we have what's called a short ridge. Sometimes we have ridges that end, like here. So this is an ending of a ridge. Sometimes a ridge will split in two, and this is called bifurcation. A bridge is where you get a short ridge linking to neighbouring ridges. I can't immediately see any of those. You've got eyes where a ridge splits and then comes back together. We can see one of those up here. And you've got spurs where the ridge splits and there's a little extra bit that comes off the side. Now those are quite hard to see, but one of the things we're going to focus on is the delta. And the deltas are shown here. This is where you've got a triangular area with ridges going off in three directions. So in both of these cases, you've got ridges going off in three different directions. And deltas are quite powerful marks to help you identify fingerprints, even if you can't see these more subtle things like dots, short ridges, ending ridges, etc. So what I would like you to do is, you've got this sheet attached to show my homework and Google Classroom. I'd like you to print it off if you can, otherwise make your own version of this. Record your fingerprints as shown in the video, and then I would like you to work out whether it's a loop, a wall or an arch, and whether or not you can see any deltas in your fingerprints. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of fingerprint analysis to work out who might have had those pens. But before I let you loose on the actual evidence from the crime scene, we're going to learn how to analyse fingerprints. And first we need some. So all you need is a relatively sharp pencil and a rough piece of paper here. And just using the side of the pencil, you want to make a nice big square that you're covering with lots and lots and lots of lead. It's not lead anymore, as you know, it's graphite and clay. Then take whichever thumb you're going to use. I'll start with my right thumb and just rub it on the graphite, on the lead, until your thumb is nice and grey. Grab yourself a little bit of Scotch tape, probably normal sellotape will work fine, and then you just want to take your fingerprint. So gently push it down, make sure that it's covering that, peel it off, and then stick it on the appropriate section of the sheet. Don't know whether you can see that. You won't need to refill it every time, so I can use the same amount of lead there to do my second finger. Again, a little bit of sticky tape, stick it on carefully, peel it off, stick it down, and there you go. And this is what I've done earlier. So you can see all 10 of my fingers here. And I've tried it both ways. I've tried it side to side, rolling the tape across and up and down. For me, because of the length of my fingers, the vertical stripes work better. For you, with your fingers, the horizontal ones may. Then all you need to do is have a look using what we've discussed and see whether or not the main distinguishing feature of each fingerprint is a loop, L, a wall, W, or an arch, A. And then if you can see any deltas in your fingerprints, circle those too. So this is the sheet that I did, and you can see that all of my fingerprints are actually loops. For example, on this one, you can see I've got ridges that come up and they go back round the same direction. So that's a loop there. Having a look in more detail, we can definitely see the loops. What else can we see? There's an eye there. So that is an eye. We can see areas where ridges end. This is a very obvious delta here in my fingerprint. I've got another eye there. I've got a bifurcation going on there. On this fingerprint, again, a very obvious delta going on there. Ridge ends, again a bifurcation, ridge end. That's a short ridge. So lots of different bits on my fingerprint. Now I did this by scanning this at high resolution and then blowing it up on a computer. You may not have the ability to do that. But if you do have something like a magnifying glass or similar, then you might be able to identify some of these small minutiae on your fingerprints too. So these are 5 pens that were found in and around the recycling centre in the supermarket car park. We've got a Sharpie, a biro, a whiteboard pen, a Crayola and an OHP pen. Underneath each pen are the fingerprints that were found on that pen. So I would like you to see if you can match these prints to the 6 fingerprints below. We've got prints of the victim, because obviously she started writing the note. So which pen did she write in? And then we've got people who begin with R, P or B. So we've got Reg, Paris, Robin and Brittany. We've also got the CSI tech, because as you've seen on the videos from earlier, he wasn't particularly careful and there's a chance he might have left his fingerprint on a couple of these pens. So you might need that as an elimination print. In order for you to make a reliable match, you need to find 8 points that match between the pen and the suspect's fingerprints. So if you've worked out which pen did it based on your chromatography from earlier, then I would focus in on that pen and I would see if you can make an 8-point match minimum between the print on that pen and one of our suspects. And if you manage to do that, I think you've got a very strong case for suggesting that that suspect wrote the rest of that note. So they must have been around the victim when they died. As before, record your results on Google Classroom and we'll see whether as a whole you guys are homing in on a particular suspect. Next week we'll go a little bit further. We're going to look at the blood analysis and we're going to look at some hair that was found on the victim and in the shopping bag. We'll also look at the murder weapon. As before, there's a couple of hints after this, so plenty of time for you to stop the video and try and work it out yourself. Otherwise, hints coming up soon. Right, if you struggled, you couldn't find the pen, then what I've got here is I've got the note, the chromatography of the note on the left here, and I've got the pens I tried on the right, and this was a Crayola pen here, and hopefully you can see that that is the closest match to the pattern of the chromatography, so you can believe that the rest of the note was written with a Crayola pen. Also, these two that I have greyed out, they are prints from the CSI tech here, so I'll remove those for you. And we said it was the Crayola, so what you need to do is you need to see if you can match that print to any of the suspects below. Have a good week.